Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Adoption and Fostering podcast. And I have with me this evening a gentleman who we all know to love, to hate, to love, to hate. Mr. Alcoats, M-B-E.
M to the B to the E. That's me, yeah! Hiya, Scott.
Couldn't resist. Have to bring that up.
Oh, you had to bring that up.
It's obviously our first podcast of 2018.
It is, yes. Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful moment in our lives.
But I think more importantly is the news over the new year that you have been awarded an MBE. And
Really?
I think we need to take a few minutes just to reflect on that.
Silently reflect on that, perhaps?
Well, no, verbally reflect on it, because the one thing that obviously, you're always suspicious about things like this. So, I've been asked a few times, did you know? No, I did not know.
Did you not?
No, I did not know. I've known about others in the past. They're obviously closer friends to me than you are.
Clearly.
Quite obviously. But yeah, so talk us through what happened when and how long you knew and blah, blah, blah.
Well, I can only tell you a edited version of the event. I'm not going to draw it out, but basically I got a letter in the post from Theresa May, and it was a lovely letter. It said, "Hi, yeah, what you doing?" Hi, yeah. And she said, "It would be my pleasure to ask the Queen to make you a member of the Order of the British Empire." And I had a very brief conversation with Paula that basically involved her telling me why that was. Anyway, I'll not go exactly what she said. Her words were, how shall we say? She was a full and frank exchange of opinions on who in the family actually deserved the MBE. And then we decided I would say yes, and that was what we did. And I kept it quiet for a long time. And the main reason I got it, the main reason I took it was because I thought my mum would be dead proud. And that's
well, she's got to be proud of something, doesn't she? So,
it's taken her 46 years.
Yeah, well, I think I talk on most of us, because your Twitter went ballistic.
It did, didn't it?
It did. I was in Spain, and I woke up and I thought maybe I would have received a text before I saw it on Twitter, but it's fine. It's fine. I can live with all that. And I just thought, oh my God. And your phone must have been like red hot smoking that day. You must have had to charge it at least half a dozen times.
It was just crazy, and people were so kind and so generous, and it was with their praise and kind of saying, "Oh, Joe, the right fellow got it." And universally,
as opposed to the wrong one.
Yeah, like, are you sure? Don't you have a brother or a wife? Maybe a wife who deserves it. A wife who does all the hard work. Yeah. It's nice, but to be honest, if I'm really honest, really quite a messes with my head a bit, because I think immediately my first reaction is, yeah, of course, which that's and then my second reaction is, oh my goodness, think of all the people I know who actually do something useful. I immediately thought of people like Paula, like. The people who just do all this stuff, but without all the razzmatazz that like you and me do. We get we're all like the showboating. Hey, we're this amazing adopters, and then there's some people who are putting out chairs in Adoption UK venues and have done it for 45 years whilst looking after children, whilst helping families, and don't get that. So I kind of mixed feelings, but I thought, well, I'll take it, use it.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's about using it to the advantage to keep on fighting the good fight that you've, quite obviously done. And I think that, I've only known you a couple of years, obviously, but I know of you from previous to that, and I've spoken to people who knew you before that, and I think that, it is well deserved. You've done a lot. You were one of the kind of first to be able to affect some change for adopters, and it's never going to happen all night and overnight, and there'll be people after you who try and do the same thing and blah blah blah, but actually,
well, that's kind of you.
Well deserved.
It does feel odd in that it does slightly change my head about what I tweet and things. You think, it really messed with my head about where I use it and stuff, but apparently it's really good at getting reservations in restaurants. That's what I've been told.
Are McDonald's doing reservations now?
If they do in my neck of the woods, Geet Poosh.
Oh, you're fair posh up there, aren't you?
Geet Poosh. And I get swan nibbles and free parking at the Palace. So What's not to love?
You can't say no to that. And of course, I think your garden party visit was just a warm up, really, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I got the date. I've got the date. I've got the date in my diary now, so we're going to rock up. I've now tried to persuade the palace to let me have tickets for all of my children, but that's an ongoing saga that I shall no doubt play out across the Twitter.
Yes, no doubt. Yes, but not to the point where actually they withdraw the MBE yet.
Services to children, but then we met him.
He was awarded, and then he started demanding 6 tickets, and
Yes.
Sorry, well, 6. Well, it'll be 8 tickets.
8 tickets, yeah. Well, really, it should be 9 but anyway.
Yeah.
So we had a straw poll and an awkward conversation with some of my children. So I love you very much. However, we thought about it long and hard, and you should never be allowed near anyone royal.
Oh dear.
Anyway, that's how to lose your MBE, isn't it?
Yes. Well, I wanted to just mention that first of all. Like I say, as well as it being our first podcast, it's obviously the first time that we've done a podcast since that. So,
hey, do you know what? I just had a thought. I might be the only podcaster with an MBE.
You might well be.
Can we call this the MBE episode?
No, but I'm going to now nickname you MB. It's no longer at alcohol, it's your MB.
Well, one of my work environments, we've set up they've mercilessly ribbed me. They've photoshopped my face onto all kinds of things, and they've left little messages like "man brain empty," "massive big ego." Just generally, and so we've set up a box that if they mention it cruelly anymore, they have to put a pound in. So it's the MBE swear box.
Oh. Yeah, cool.
Yes, yeah. But I'm bored of talking about me now. I feel
I know. And I was just going to say, just as well, you don't work with me because it'd be 10 times worse, as you probably could imagine. So
yes, I've worked really
I have
hard.
to be nice on the podcast because I get paid a lot of money to do it. So
I know. That's how you
be nice. Yeah, I've actually got you on a dartboard with pins and darts thrown at it now. So there you go.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
it's fair enough.
So anyway, on to tonight. So in a little while, we'll be talking to my friend and not yours because you know nothing about her.
Literally.
Just adoptee in West End superstar, Shona White.
Don't you just hate cronyism where we just get our crony friends?
I know, yeah. It's like we like our mates just because we've nothing else. But no, we have got plans. We have got plans for 2018, haven't we? We've got some really good guests lined up, actually.
Yes.
I have to say. And I'm not saying any names, apart from obviously Carrie Grant.
Carrie Grant, friend of the show.
On the back of wow, she followed us this week.
I know. I'm like a child. I'm so excited. Yeah. It's
like celebrity fabrity. And I was hoping that we might get Suddenly Mummy back on as well. Or
I am a bit concerned, I'll be honest with you.
Go on.
But I think she's almost like the Jason Bourne of the adoption world. Because I say that because she has so many identities or versions of identities.
I know, bless her. And she's now been well and truly outed everywhere. I think you were the catalyst for that, so well done you. And it should be Suddenly Mummy OBE, as far as I'm concerned, after her performance the other night. She was absolutely
DBE?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, Dame
Mummy.
Suddenly Mummy.
DMS.
Yeah, exactly.
DSM.
Yeah. DSM. Anyway, so
the only thing
we've got.
Sorry, I just sorry to interrupt you because I hate interrupting the guests. Not that you're a guest, or what have I said? But
I'm still classed as a guest.
No, the only thing with Suddenly Mummy is I've noticed that we get more people listen to the podcast when she comes on.
So, well, what does that say?
It's made me think we should. It's not fair.
Well, now that you're an MBE, you've got friends that can sort that one out.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's move on, shall we?
Let's move on quickly.
So what have you been up to? What's happening? Go on.
Oh, well, just the usual. Christmas was Christmas. I feel like Christmas is too long ago. I can't be bothered to speak about it.
It's ages. It's not even. Yeah, I got an email yesterday from someone that said Happy New Year, and it's the 18th of October. I was going to say 18th of January, and it's just like not really.
It's gone. It's too late.
18 days in.
I've been listening to some other podcasts. I know. I sometimes listen to adoptees on, and I listen to some social work podcasts, and I've come to this really tragic conclusion that they're very good, they're very professional, they're very organised, they clearly prepare, they don't fall out with each other.
We don't fall out either. We don't have podcast tiffs. Do we?
Yeah, and I was just thinking that maybe we should raise our game this year. Do you think we should be more sensible?
I think, wow. See, I think that actually a lot of people get something out of our banter as well. So the thing is, when we ask for feedback, we don't really get feedback on what we said. Yeah. So if we say, well, let us know what you think about duh. So it's very difficult to tell.
That's true.
If we're pitching it correctly. I think that if there was too much banter, I'm sure that people would be quick enough to say.
That's true. It's
to be perfectly honest. Like people are too quick to say about my beard.
You've got a lovely beard. What's it called?
It's called beardy beard face.
Beardy McBeardy face.
Yeah, exactly. I've got loads of comments about it.
I know.
Positive, but one or two negative that really don't like it. And the thing is, I've never even met them.
That's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Although
are they men crushes?
But a certain CBE told me it gave me gravitas, which I then had to look up the definition of gravitas to find out what it meant. But I'm taking that as a positive.
I like the fact you used just for men. I thought that was...
I have to. Seriously, man, if you could see that.
How vain are you? That's terrible.
I look like a slim version of Father Christmas if it didn't. So, it needs to be...
an emaciated Father Christmas.
Yes, exactly. Like he hasn't eaten all year and just woken up.
I was thinking as well, I'd really like this year to really try and get more adoptees on the podcast. So I'm working hard on that. You're talking about guests. And we've got one guest, haven't we? Who I've spoken to.
Yeah.
And then we've got a few others, people lined up, some young people, some older people, and just, I think we just need to open it up, really. And I'd love to get all kinds. Looking back last year, I think we had a fantastic range of guests. So I hope to get as many, if not more, this year. Seems fair.
Yeah, I think we do. And I think that actually some of the topics we discuss, we should get the adoptee perspective as well. And what I mean by that is, when we have a professional on, I think that it would be nice just to kind of run past, not necessarily the content, but some of the ideas around that interview with an adoptee, just to kind of get those reflections from them.
Yeah.
And things like, I let you know the other day for LGBT Adoption Week, we were going to have an adoptee of a same-sex couple who you're going to interview.
Yeah. Right, that's me told. I'll interview them.
Yeah. And just for the record, it is my son, hence the reason that I can't interview him, because we'll just end up screaming at each other. And
Aww.
But things like that, I think, that's quite important. Actually, there's a minimum age that we can go to with stuff like this, isn't there? But I think in terms of reflections, it would be really good to hear from, the kind of teen years, especially because they're the ones that are living and breathing it at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're going through all this stuff that we keep talking about as parents. So I totally agree with that.
I'm really cautious, though, that we don't become really paternalistic and kind of allow people we're allowing some of those adoptees onto our podcast. It's certainly not that at all.
No, it's not. It's not meant to be that. I think there's so much criticism about the kind of young person's voice. I hear it every day. And
really?
I was at a meeting yesterday, and obviously through my work, it's our service is a doctor's voice. The voice for the adopters, a doctor voice. That's our service. We don't currently have a service for adoptees because that's not what we do. And sometimes I feel like I have to start by saying, please, before I start, the birth parent's voice is just as important as the adoptee's voice, as well as the adopter's voice. And you're right. We just need that kind of reflection because they need to have the same outlet that we do. So
it's really tricky. I find it really, really challenging because all the time I'm conscious that as the adopters, we have the dominant voice, and we always have done. We've always. So it's really difficult to bring those other voices in because by definition we can't. Even facilitating those voices, it feels slightly paternalistic and slightly work or allowing it.
It does, yeah.
But that's a project for the year.
And I think that just to kind of summarise for that, I think that comes down to our advocacy for our children, doesn't it? Because we're so used to doing that because actually sometimes they can't use their voice effectively and we have to do it. But like any child, some of them don't have the words or are able to express the feelings that it brings them. So we make that assumption. And, I'd like to say that we don't make mistakes, but as parents, we probably do, even though we're doing what we think is best.
Yeah. I mean, that's parenting to a T, isn't it? It's just
exactly
mistakes and jiggery pokery. Anyway, that's enough of my weekend. Christmas. I was honestly.
Yeah. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthdays.
Oh.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, all time permanent.
Yeah, anyway,
the state of trepidation and fear my children and I live in over my parenting skills. One thing I was going to say is really briefly, because it's a big topic, is the child-to-parent violence and aggression survey 2018 is out there. So if you're listening to this and you don't know what it's about, it's basically a catch up to the survey we did in 2016. And I think I look back now and it was just like a moment where I thought, hey, I could do a survey in 2016. So I did it, and it's just literally taken over my life. And now we're kind of looking at that again and wanting to develop that, and we realised there was a limit to the knowledge that we were gathering, and in some ways it raised more questions around the impact on siblings, the impact on other family members. Also, actually, when we say violence, what do we mean? When we say aggression, what are we talking about? Huge issues around what the definition is. Some people would engage with that because of the definition. Some people felt like really excluded by the definition. Looking at things like a practice guide, context, responses, grid. So really, just if people are listening and they know what it is, it's on my blog. There's enough. I've tweeted it out a zillion times, so you should be able to find it. But I'd appreciate if people could do that. That would be good.
Yeah. And do you feel like you've done? This is going to sound wrong in some ways, but do you feel like you've done a lot more kind of background to it? Because I know that last time it wasn't rushed, but you did it quite quickly.
Yeah, I often get into these moments, like with the podcast. I have this idea, and I think that's such a good idea. I'll do it, and then I think, if I've had the idea, then someone brighter and cleverer than me must be like ahead of me. So I tend to get into this rush. But this one, we really measured ourselves, and Dr. Wendy did a lot of work, and we're trying to reach out into different communities. So we reached out in the communities of parents whose children have special educational needs, or things like ADHD and autism, and a whole range of different communities, just to get an even broader picture, which has opened up a whole can of worms. And seeing some of the responses coming in already, it is just gobsmacking. The extremes that people find themselves in, but then become normalized, and they lose all sense of perspective. And you probably do it the same, and I do the same. That actually, at times my family life feels really out there, but because it didn't just happen, you grew into that. You feel a bit freaked out. Anyway, yeah. So it may be nice to get Dr. Wendy on, or maybe get Helen Bonnick or some other person who knows what they're talking about back on the podcast, and maybe sort of present
somebody
the
who knows
findings.
what they're talking about. Yeah.
It'd be good to get somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Anyway,
it's time, isn't it?
It's time. Must be time. Yeah, she's probably sitting by her phone, drinking her cup of tea, whatever she's doing.
Right. So, are you going to dial her in, or am I going to? No,
you'll have to do it. I don't know how to do it. Okay. I just turn up to the gig with my glass.
It hasn't gone
and I talk.
Hello.
Oh. Hello.
It's wee Jimmy Cranky. She's on the.
Hi, Al.
Hello there.
Nice to meet you.
We're delighted to welcome this tonight's guest, or this episode's guest, actually. She is a lovely, lovely friend of mine who I've known for many years, and you've probably heard me refer to her before. She is an adoptee, and that's the reason why we've asked her to come on, not for any other reason. She's not here to promote anything. She's not here to sell anything. Well, I hope she isn't anyway, because this isn't the Graham Norton Show. This is an adoption fostering podcast. So welcome to Shona White.
Thank you.
Hello.
Lovely to be here. I shall try to refrain from trying to sell tickets to my next show or something like that. I'll stop myself.
If you accidentally do sell some tickets, don't worry about it.
I know. Yeah. Who knew? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah. Not bad. You've been busy.
I mean, you're working with an MBA.
I know.
Yes, I've been very busy. I'm just very impressed that you're working with someone who's got an MBE. I'm sorry. I feel like so humble and like I'm not worthy.
Do I detect a hint of sarcasm in your voice?
Absolutely not.
I've not even met you. You're being harsh to me.
I feel very kind of beneath him now in terms of status.
In what terms?
I feel like I'm the worker now.
Oh, don't worry. You'll get yours soon, Scott.
Oh, I doubt it. Anyway, the only award I get is just a bottle of Prosecco on a Friday night. So, and look, it's Friday night. Chin chin. So anyway, you've come. You've come on.
Got a lovely cup of tea.
Yes. Well, congratulations on your cup of tea on Friday night. So you've come along to. You kindly decided to come along after a little bit of persuasion to talk to us about your experience of being an adoptee. Now, obviously, there will be some that listen and go, well, how old is this Shona White? And we'll not really release your age. You're only 31 after all. But it's a little bit different to what it was. Yeah, it's a little bit different to what it was now in terms of adoption to what it was back in 1970, whenever. Would you say that?
I don't mind saying my age, 1976.
Yeah.
Or does that mean that I'm now feeling your age because we went to school together?
No, I was 10 years behind you. Anyway, back to your adoptee status. See, I told you this was going to be a car crash out, didn't it?
It's going to be a long night.
It's going to be a very big edit for you, so good luck with that one.
Thank you.
So I think my opening is the fact that adoption is very different to what it was back in 1976, and how aware you are, I guess, of how different it is. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I guess through knowing you and knowing what you do with Adoption UK, I'm becoming more aware of the need for support for adoptive families. I think back in the 70s when I was adopted, that support just wasn't there. And even people probably didn't really speak about it. There was a bit of stigmatism? No. Stigma.
No, that's something.
No, that's because I've got one. I have a stigmatism. Sorry, I got mixed up. And I've only drinking tea as well, I promise. No, but I think there was probably a stigma attached to it back in the 70s. And so people probably didn't talk. So, of course, there's now lots of forums and outlets for people and support networks. So I guess that's the main change. And also the fact that many more people are allowed to adopt now. So whereas it perhaps used to be a very traditional married mum and dad, married man and wife, could go through the very long process of trying to adopt a child successfully. Obviously now that's opened up because, as we know, there are many children who need adopting, and so why not give them a home in any loving home? So of course that's a major difference as well. I've got lots of friends who've in same-sex marriages who have adopted, single parents, So that's obviously changed. But yeah, I think the main thing for me that would have affected my family is the fact that back then there wouldn't have been the support system and the network, and it wouldn't have been talked about. And it's brilliant. It is now.
Could you tell us your story? I mean, I presume, Scott, you will know the story, but
to be honest with you, mine, I believe, is a very happy story. I was adopted as a young baby, so I've always known.
Right.
I know that's not the case. It probably wasn't the case back then, and it certainly isn't now. There's lots of young children in awful situations who need to be adopted. That wasn't my situation. I'm very lucky, and I count my lucky stars for that. So I was adopted as a very young baby. I've always known. Mum and Dad always said that I was special and chosen, which made me feel incredible. And I've just grown up knowing that. So yes, that's my story really. I'm just very lucky.
I think that's probably really common narrative from that era of adoption, isn't it?
Exactly, from the 70s, yeah.
Right now, I don't know if you saw the One show the other night. There was a feature on adopted children in school, and obviously you came to the conference last year, and you kind of got that I guess, the feel from some of the parents that you spoke to about what it's like in education these days. And I was just wondering about your experience of education. And I mean, obviously your story is very different to, I don't want to downplay the fact that you're adopted, but the kind of modern adoptee has a different experience of why they're adopted these days as well. But what was your experience in school and education in terms of adoption? Did it affect you, or did it not even come up?
If I'm honest with you, I don't recall that it did. I mean, there was possibly, if people found out that, because to be honest with you, I boasted about it. I'm special. I'm chosen.
You did. I remember.
Yeah. But I mean, why not? Everyone wants to be special, don't they? So, I kind of boasted about it. So, I've probably worked a few things out. So, if anything, there might have been a bit of, teasing or name calling in the playground, but nothing serious that I can remember. I've had it held against me more as an adult sometimes.
Oh, really?
Which can be a bit tough. Yeah, but I don't remember. I don't remember it affecting me too badly at school. As you say, it's a different time, and my situation was different. So I don't recall that it did, although I might have blocked some stuff out. Who knows? I am ancient.
So interestingly, you say about when you're an adult. So what kind of?
I think because some people might feel threatened by it because it's a bit different. It's not where they've come from, so it's been thrown in my face a few times about being different, and mean things said like, "Oh, look at you! No wonder you were adopted. No wonder you were given away." So I have had things like that happen to me.
Okay.
But more as I recall, as an adult rather than as a child. It may well have happened, and I might have blocked it out because it's a long time ago. I am ancient, as I said.
I don't know you. Clearly, I don't know you like Scott knows you, but it sounds like you're quite a confident and sort of, bubbly character. But
comes with the territory of my business.
Yeah, but is it just that people like hooking onto anything to kind of try and knock you down? And just because actually you seem really comfortable with who you are and how you came to be who you are. So is it just sort of people looking to get at you really by any means possible?
Yeah, I suppose so. It's just that looking for that little thing that's different to them and, using that, I suppose, which is incredibly unfair.
Yeah, people are horrible.
And I won't pretend that's not damaging.
No, of course.
No, of course. And so your parents, they've probably, well, you've said, you were special and you were chosen. What was the process for them in terms of being able to adopt? Have they shared that with you and told you what their experience was before you were? I know you've got an older brother as well who was.
Yes, who's also adopted from another family. Yeah, he's ginger. He's from a different family. Actually, his hair is more brunette nowadays.
Backtrack.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, but yeah, what was your parents' kind of experience of, was there an assessment or was?
By all accounts, they went through about the same time as it takes to conceive, so about 9 months. I don't know how long it takes nowadays, but Mum said it was a similar amount of time to 9 months to go through all the assessments and the visits and paperwork and things had to go through the courts, etc. So it took the same amount of time, and I'm sure for them it was fairly trying, because I suppose they weren't guaranteed at the end of the day. But I don't know any kind of finer details than that.
No, yeah.
I find it really interesting how adoptions changed, and what do you feel are the differences now to when you were sort of growing up and you were sort of living your life as a child and a young person and a teen all those years compared to now?
As far as I can see, in the 70s, babies were being adopted because they were born out of wedlock and had very young parents and needed a home straight away because of the shame of being a young unmarried parent. That was probably the norm back then.
Yeah.
As I say now, I've seen from friends of mine who've adopted, but also mainly from what I've seen through being involved with Adoption UK with Scott, and yes, there's a different different need. Kids have a different need. They're being adopted for different reasons, and they've unfortunately had a very hard start in life because they weren't adopted straight away. So they were born into difficult situations, and so it's a very different situation.
Yeah,
very different situation. There's different reasons for kids to be adopted now.
Very different sort of society and culture. What about as growing up? Did you have a curiosity about where you'd come from, why you, and as you've moved into adulthood, is that something you've thought about pursuing?
So absolutely, growing up, especially when you get to the teenage angst years, where everyone's trying to figure out where they've come from.
Yeah.
Not just adoptees, everyone is. So going through the whole teenage thing. Oh, who am I? Where did I come from? Yeah. Lots of people I know who aren't adopted would go through the thing of, oh, I hate my parents. I wish I was adopted. Things like that. So definitely as a teenager, when I was trying to find myself, for want of a better phrase, definitely I was extremely curious then, extremely curious.
Right.
And it was quite a big thing for me then. And I did start to investigate the process. But then I kind of put a lid on that after a certain time where I felt secure enough that I didn't need to. Because at one point it felt like a need to kind of carry on and develop as a person. But yes, then it didn't. I kind of found out a few details and then thought, well, do you know what? Actually, that's all I need to know. My mum and dad are my mum and dad. They're incredible. What they've done for me is incredible. I am who I am today because of them, and they support me. And
I mean, that rings with what I've heard from other people, that they've sort of scratched and found enough to kind of satisfy, enough to kind of make sense. Yeah,
and I'm not saying that means I never will investigate further, because there are various reasons which might lead me to do that. But it's certainly not been on the agenda for a while. But I mean, one reason would be medical history. You don't know your medical history.
Yeah, when you're 15, it's not an issue, but when you
when you hit 40 and you start to go to the doctors with various ailments, and they say, "Oh, do you have a history of blah blah blah? Do you have a history of blah blah blah?" Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Look, I have to be honest with you. I've been very lucky. They've been quite understanding and said, "Oh, look, we'll send you for tests anyway."
Yeah.
Just to make sure, because you obviously don't know. So the doctors so far have been very helpful. But yeah, that would be a reason to know. Or actually, do I really want to know if I have a history of any diseases? I'm not sure. Do I?
Well, I mean, it's a incredibly personal question, isn't it? That comes down to who you are and how your outlook on life, doesn't it? So that's but not questions that necessarily other people would have to face. I haven't got that option. I know what my family history is, so I have no understanding of how you would answer that question.
Yeah. So that's a strange one. So that might be a reason to investigate further. I don't know. I certainly don't feel the same need as I did all those years ago when I was just finding my place in the world.
Yeah.
I think I've found my place in the world. I don't know. I feel like I have.
Yeah.
I
guess
we're all learning, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the temptation is that sort of as an adoptive parent, I'm wanting to know what it's like to be an adoptee. I want to look into my child's mind, and I want to find out what's going to go on, or I want to get an idea. So the temptation for adopters is to kind of generalize and look for extremes, but sometimes actually, like your story, actually sounds all right. You sounds like you're doing okay, aren't you? It's not. It's
I certainly as a grown up in inverted commas feel like I'm doing okay. But definitely over the years there been some tricky times, but mainly in the formative years and teenage years. When you are just looking to find out who you are, and if there are bits missing from your story, I always felt like it was a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, and there was little bits missing, and I felt like I needed to fill those gaps.
I guess it's an itch that you can never scratch potentially, is there? Because you might never be able to get answers to some of those questions.
No, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I just have to take, my experience now and where I've come from. And
But there is something. There's something in that's going to sound wrong, and if it does, then I apologise. But there is something in not knowing as well, especially when it comes to stuff like the medical history. If I think about my family and knowing, all the things that have gone on before me. Do you want to know all of that sometimes? I don't know.
Well,
it's one of those things, isn't it? You don't know until you're in that position. But certainly, I'd prefer not to know my family's medical history sometimes, because I think, okay, well, I'll get to 50 and I'll keel over, that sort of thing. So, you won't.
You better not. You better not. Another thing that I suppose I would be curious about is where I get my talent and my wish to perform.
Of course,
But I've often thought, is it God-given? I mean, that opens up a whole other subject to discuss. Did it come from one of my birth parents? I don't know. Did I develop it? Was it nature or nurture? Do I want to perform to get attention because I've grown up craving attention because I was abandoned? I don't know. I've not actually thought about these things too deeply. So I hope you're going to provide my therapy when we get off this at the end.
It's all on air. That's the payment. You have to do it on air.
Do you know what your therapy is? You can spend the day with Jacob and you can work that out with him as well, because you're right. You are right. You don't know where that comes from, do you? Yeah. And I'm sure that there's things with your children now, all 6 of them. Or is it 600? Yeah, 6. I mean, 6. Sorry, I'm asking another question now. But do your children feel like that, especially the grown-up ones? Because when I look at Fraser and Brandon, there's some things that I can see that I've managed to influence. Granted, not many things, but I've managed to influence some of their ethics and what have you. So
can I be really honest? One of the founds I found, one of my children, she was removed. Well, she was moved quite young, but she'd still lived in the home environment. And then a few years ago, we got in touch with a family member, and we were overwhelmed. And the thing that overwhelmed us was mannerisms. There was little mannerisms that my daughter has and has always had. But she'd never lived with this relative. So she had no contact for 15 years, but the same mannerisms, the same way they said certain words, the same way they looked across a room and they moved, the same way they would kind of cock the side of the head.
It's incredible.
It is,
That's absolutely incredible. Ironically, when I was little, people would come up to my mum in the street and say how much I looked like her, and even still now people say how much like my dad I am, and my sense of humour is the same, which is, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not, but and also little affectations and little movements that I do that are like them, that I don't know, must have that must be nerds. I've just picked those up, but it would be fascinating to see if there were any that are natural. That would just be. That's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I was very certain before I adopted children about nurture and nature, increasingly believing that less and less in nurture. But then again, you could probably get another adopter on, and he would give you a totally different view.
Yeah, give you a different percentage, exactly.
Yeah, I always remember when the older 2 were placed with us, and we went to the supermarket, and bearing in mind, this is quite new for 2 men to have children 10, 11 years ago. And the checkout lady actually said, "Don't you look like your dad?" to Brandon. And, simply, Brandon had glasses on and Trish had glasses on. Yeah. That was kind of the only scenario. They'd been with us maybe 4 weeks, if you like. And I think that some people just kind of look at, one specific thing sometimes and say that. But then Fraser and myself, we've got the same mannerisms, we've got the same, everything about us is very similar. We love the last word. We both have to get the last word. But there are features. There's features. Yeah,
really?
I know. Even when he was 8, I had to get the last one. Anyway, but there's lots of features, and people compare us and say, "Oh, don't you look like your dad, Tim?" So
Yeah.
I don't think that's unusual. I think that's society in some ways, isn't it? They pick out one. It could be just one little thing. It could be the color of your hair.
Yeah, it could
Fraser
be.
and I.
Could
Well,
be.
I used to have black hair, but it's gone a bit grey now. But Fraser and I have
Just
black
for
hair.
men.
Just for men. And like I say, just for the glasses, it could be anything, couldn't it? It doesn't necessarily mean that you. I'm not downplaying it, because I think actually I took it as a compliment that actually someone thought this was.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I think my mum would have taken it as a compliment, and it would have boosted her confidence, and I think I did as well, because I was, like, you look like you belong,
Yeah,
helps you.
That's really. I mean, that's really important. We all want to belong,
Exactly.
whether that's football or music or country or family. I mean, have you? I'm not sure this is even a question. It's Scott and I have just. We live in this world of adoption.
Yeah.
But I'm really conscious that some people just don't. And actually, are you just living your life and this is just something that sort of pops up? Or is it something
that's very interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, obviously, more recently it's been more prevalent because of my involvement with Adoption UK, but I'm kind of relishing that.
Right.
Because I believe it's always been a positive part of me, so I'm relishing my involvement there, and having thoughts brought to the forefront of my mind is, I like it. It's positive. It's but yes, that's interesting. Before then, I suppose I was in a way just getting on with my life, and it was an inherent part of me, which of course would affect me in various different ways along my life path, but yes, it wasn't something that was on my mind all the time. Like you say, you two are in a world of adoption as adopters, and working where you do. But
and it's a choice we made. We we actively
we made the
chose
choice to do this, didn't we? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, that's true. Yes, it wasn't my choice. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have it any other way, I have to say. I know that I said corny, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think that's the same for me, actually, even with the ups and downs, many downs. No, I wouldn't change it either. I really wouldn't. And it's obviously people get awarded kind of things from the Queen and things like that.
Is that why you're hanging on in there, Scott?
No, I'd like to say Friday night, as long as someone's giving me a bottle of Prosecco through the week, I'm happy. That's my award. But it's a choice for us, and I mean, granted, if you just said to me 11 years ago, when in 11 years' time, when the boys are 19, nearly 20, and 18, nearly 19, that you'll be working in the environment that you're working in and recording a podcast to to inform people of this, that, and the next thing, I'd have laughed in your face, because that wasn't the intention for me. I was quite happy doing my little job in retail and, working away and coming home every night. And life's changed for us as well. Granted, some of it isn't nice, but, I certainly wouldn't change my choice. And I certainly wouldn't change the fact that I have 3 gorgeous sons as a result.
Yeah, and they are gorgeous. And also, you both are able to then pass knowledge and support on to other people, which is incredible. And these kind of things weren't around. I mean, I've never listened to a podcast before, so I was like, oh my goodness, okay. I was actually a bit nervous doing this, but I have to get with technology.
Really?
This, this is, and I've listened to all of yours 10 times. But I mean, there's lots of ways of helping people now and getting the word out and supporting people. So it's incredible what you're doing. Brilliant.
Thank you. I feel like we've just turned it back onto, or I've just turned it back onto us. But anyway, so on to the professional side.
A recurring theme in the podcast where we just talk about ourselves.
Turn it back on ourselves.
Well, Scott talks about himself.
Yes. Thanks, Mibby. So just going on to your professional side, obviously, you grew up in a small town in Scotland, and you've worked your way down to.
I believe it was a village.
Well, was it? A small town, village in Scotland, where the population was a couple of hundred, and now you've spent your life working your way to where you are now. You were recently made a patron, Playhouse theatre. what sort of life is that? You know, and I don't mean, I'm not done playing that. That sounded wrong. What sort of a life are you living, Shona? Come on,
call that a life.
So what
Sorry,
leads
Shona.
to these sorts of, you know, these honourable kind of things that you get to do? Because that must be amazing to be made a patron of a theatre in the West End of London.
It is incredible. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's just I've stuck around long enough. So these nice things just keep keep happening to me. No, it's true. You know, a lot of my contemporaries have gone in other directions now. You know, they've to a certain point and thought, you know, I've reached a certain age, and I'm in between casting brackets. I might go and do something else. But for me, you know, I've thought along the way, is there something else I'd like to do? I kind of wish there was at some points, because it's not all easy and level. You know, it is a bit up and down and insecure, this industry. It's a crazy choice for a career, really.
Well, yeah.
But at those points where I've gone, I wish I had something else that I could do. Actually, I've gone, well, there's nothing else I would want to do. So here I am, tenacious and still doing it. And so I think, yes, the lovely accolades and positions that I get offered, I think is basically because I've just stuck around long enough.
Yeah.
So
it's like a reward for endurance.
Yes, indeed. Maybe I'll get an MBE soon. No.
Okay, I think we've maybe milked that a little bit too far. I can tell by his tone, he's getting a bit bored of this now. So, and in terms of some of the parts you play, and this is the interesting thing, and I've always wanted to ask you this, and forgive me for not asking. I love ABBA, as you know, and I love Mamma Mia, and obviously you've gone from playing the daughter in Mamma Mia to playing the mother in Mamma Mia recently, and that's where. So my question is that Mamma Mia, as a story as well, there's stuff in that, isn't there? Because there's like a missing father, and then there's a choice of three, and I've always wanted to ask you, did that ever come up for you as something, as a thing? I'm just going to call it a thing because I don't.
Well, absolutely, because any role that you play as an actress, it's useful to find a part of yourself that you can identify with the character. Yeah. Now, obviously, with that show, I've got a huge chunk of me that I can identify with the character. So when I played Sophie, who was looking for her dad, her birth dad, then of course I could completely identify with that, and it was actually very cathartic, I think, that role. I think it was. So obviously, I could really identify with her, and then coming back to play the mother was also quite cathartic, but I don't know why.
A tad insulting, yes.
Sorry?
A tad insulting coming back to play the mother.
Well, that I'm old now.
Yeah.
I am actually old enough to have a 20-year-old daughter.
You are, yeah.
Yeah, and she was meant to be young when she had her. You know,
very true. I'll give you that one.
I know I don't look old enough. Only you two see, but you know, I haven't had any work done. Okay, stop. Calm down. Nice beard.
Yeah, touche. Right back at him.
No, actually, I do think it really suits you. But yes, I suppose, coming back to play the mother was kind of strange but exhilarating as well. And it's kind of like I'd gone full circle. Yeah. And could see things from then the other side. And obviously, you know the show very well. And there's a scene where it's daughter's getting ready for the wedding. They've had a big argument. She comes in to get ready, asks her mum to help her get ready, and the mother sings "Slipping Through My Fingers." So I remember, 14 years ago when I did it as Sophie sitting there in the chair while Louise Plowright, who played my mum, was then singing it, and whoa, the emotion was incredible. So then going back to then sing the song as the mother, still very cathartic, but in a different way. And my mum and dad came to watch me do that, and they were just in absolute bits. I mean, how could you not be? But yes, it's a show that's really, really special to me, and it's probably because I can identify with the story a lot. It's not just if anyone's listening to this who hasn't seen it, it's not just jumping around to ABBA. It's actually got a beautiful little story at its heart.
It does. You're right. You are right, actually.
Yeah.
It is lovely, and if you've not seen the movie, go and see the theatre show instead of the movie. And also moving on to Wicked then as well, because you were in Wicked, weren't you? And I'm not saying there's any similarities to Wicked, but there's a certain element of it of kind of things that you might be able to relate to. Are you just attracted to these roles?
Absolutely. Well, she doesn't fit in.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Probably. Well, she doesn't fit in, but then she goes on a massive journey and finds herself, and finds her purpose.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I could completely identify with her journey and how she felt at the start, and the kids ridiculing her, and she just was left on her own, I think. So yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think, are there any other ones now like that? I think those are the two main ones.
It's getting very deep, isn't it? Were you expecting this? You thought it was going to be
another glass of bubbles. Come on.
Yes.
I have. I've just topped it up, actually.
I said to you, as long as you sort out my therapy at the end of it, it's fine.
That's all right. I know a good interactive hypnotherapist. You'll do.
There we go. Yes. There we go.
I was going to ask. Well, not ask, but I was just speaking to someone this week, and they were a little bit older than you, maybe 15, 20 years older than you, and they were an adoptee themselves, and they talked in really positive terms around their early life and family. But they described this experience of reading a book called Primal Wound, which speaks of children and kind of the link we have with our biological parents, and they described having this experience of going, wow, that makes sense of stuff that I didn't even know needed to be made sense of. And I was just wondering whether you've ever thought, I might get more help. I might act. I know we've joked about therapy, but has there ever been a moment where you thought maybe that would help, or not help, but would maybe bring something to the party that hasn't been there before?
Well, I've just written down the title of that book because I'm going to look that up. Yes, I suppose so. There have been moments over time. Usually, I have to say, this is very candid now. Wow, here we go. Usually it's stuff that might affect relationships, where I've thought, oh gosh, okay, maybe that's something that I should have a look at to find out if there's a reason that is an issue. But no, I've never done it. But I might pick up that book though. That sounds interesting.
I mean, it's a seminal work, and it looks at the primal wound. Kind of describes the idea of being separated from child from its mother. But I'm not looking to kind of unpick your mind or look for problems that are not there, because I think we're all different, aren't we? And all people are different and respond to the same situations differently. I hope I haven't opened up.
Oh no, absolutely not. No, I'm so secure in my situation, but I do find it interesting. So I do like reading books on personality and about humans. So yes, I've never actually read any books on that subject. So perhaps I will now. I do find that fascinating.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, if your life unravels
as well, because
after that, don't blame me. Can we just make that clear?
Yeah, you just should put the bill in the post, and I know where you live, so I can.
Don't worry about that. Listen, I knew when I was going to speak to you guys, the things might come up, so it's absolutely cool. I wouldn't have, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't okay with it. So I've always thought there must be something in the fact that someone chose to abandon me. There must be something in that, and there must be something about that human, as you say, primal. Yeah, that divide being taken away from there. There must be something in that.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting.
It's getting pretty deep now.
Yeah, but it's not to be disloyal to your parents.
I think it's interesting.
There's a sense of.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah, and that's where I think it can get challenging for adoptees, because I think that the love they have for their adoptive parents is as strong as love can be, but I think our capacity to love means that you can love more.
Yeah, I've always said my parents are my parents. They're the best, and to be honest with you, they might be more okay with me going deeper than I would. Extremely supportive.
Cool.
Yeah, you did.
I spoke over the top of you, Scott. Sorry.
You interrupted, Paxman. Patron MBE. That's interesting because a couple times you've said a word, the term relinquished.
Relinquished.
Yeah, relinquished. And I've forgotten the word you use now, so that's
abandoned.
Really, abandoned. Yes, abandoned. Yeah. Is that what you feel? Like say we can edit this if you. I
guess you're asking me that now. No, I don't feel like that. That's not how you might have a word for this now. Then, but perhaps along the way, in relationships, I definitely would self-diagnose myself with abandonment in inverted commas. But you might call that something different. Now, I don't know the technical.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
And I mean, it's probably silly to say the word abandoned because I wasn't abandoned. I wasn't left in a telephone box wrapped in a towel. I wasn't. It all happened through the proper channels from a very early age. So So perhaps I should change my jargon into relinquished.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just because it's not a word that I've heard referred to.
I have to say, what you've done is you've made me have a deeper interest in it all, and I do actually want to do some research into this more, I think, and chat to you more. I don't know. I find it fascinating.
Well, we both know. Probably Al would be best because his are probably more qualified than mine because obviously, they'll be MBE related.
Shut up.
Sorry, did I mention that acronym again? Sorry, it just keeps coming out. Sorry, Al.
Do I detect a hint of jealousy?
None at all, mate. None at all. I'm not the one that's got to have my photograph taken and posted all over the world about receiving that. Anyway,
fabulous.
Yeah, it will be fabulous, I'm sure. Anyway, and he'll have a nice little badge, like a Blue Peter badge you can put on his little.
I think you call it a medal, Scott.
Love it.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, it's a medal.
My kids have got lots of medals.
I've got a Blue Peter badge. Does that count?
I think I'm running out of tape.
Conveniently.
My C60 is almost up.
C60. Do you remember those?
No, I'm too young.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, you made me laugh so much there.
Yeah.
What, you inhaled your beard?
You need another glass of bubbles. You'll be fine.
Thank you, Shona, for coming on and being very candid and sharing a lot of things that I think a lot of parents will probably find that they'll relate to, even though there's a number of years, your experience of adoption and our children's experience of adoption. I think there's still a lot of similarities there. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yes.
Good luck with whatever your next project is.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and you're so welcome. It's been fun.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you will listen to this. Hopefully you'll listen to this podcast and you'll be able to share it for us as well to get some of your lovely friends to support the podcast as well.
Showbiz friends.
Absolutely will. You tell me how to do it technically, I'll do anything for you.
Fabulous. Excellent.
Thank you very, very much.
So welcome. Lovely to meet you, MB.
Funny lady. Okay, then I'm going to say goodbye because that's what you normally do at the end of a conversation. Goodbye.
Bye.
Right, anyway. Oh my days.